What went down? On October 9th, 2020, at around 7:33 a.m., 49-year-old Jennifer Faith and her husband Jamie Faith were walking their dog near their home in the Oak Cliff section of Dallas. Jamie didn't know that this would be his last walk with his dog. Just moments after they left the house, Jamie was shot dead by an anonymous person. He was shot a total of 7 times, 3 times to the chest and head, and once in his groin. After the shooting, the murderer pulled out some duct tape and wrapped Jennifer's wrists up, leaving her alive. He then swiftly escaped in his black Nissan Titan pickup truck, adorned with a prominent T decal on the rear window. The neighbors heard Jennifer screaming for her life, and she was inconsolable. A woman named Melinda Mendoza heard her screams and described that it almost felt like a movie, and she instantly called the authorities, telling them to hurry up. When the cops reached the crime scene, Jennifer described the shooter to be wearing a blue mask, which made sure that his face was hidden. From the looks of it, the case seemed simple, but there were several layers of deception involved, which were discovered months after the investigation began. The detectives go house to house. The first thing the authorities checked were Jamie's front door security cameras, which managed to capture the image of him leaving his house with Jennifer and their dog Maggie. The picture was timed only a few seconds before he was shot to death. But other cameras managed to get images of the vehicle that the killer used to get away from the scene. Peter van Sant, one of the investigators, confirmed that it was a Nissan Titan pickup truck, but it had something unique on its blacked-out windows. Steve Pickett, who covered the case for the local news station CBS's KTVT-TV, confirmed that it was a T and that the letter showed support for the Texas Rangers baseball team in Dallas. The cameras failed to capture the vehicle's license plate though, so there was still a lot of work that the police had to do in order to capture the killer. Meanwhile, neighbors were coming out with what they had to say about the victim. Shimona Jackson and her wife, Melissa Gonzalez, were longtime neighbors of Jamie and Jennifer Faith. But due to their growing family of 7 adopted children, they had to move to a larger space when the pandemic struck. Despite the physical distance, Shimona and Melissa had fond memories of their time living next door to the Faiths. The initial meeting with Jamie left a positive impression on Shimona as they bonded over their shared love for their children. The Faiths warmly welcomed them into their home, inviting them and their kids to enjoy their backyard pool whenever they pleased. The Faith residence then became a favorite spot for swimming and occasional sleepovers. When asked about Jennifer, Shimona described her as a fun and easygoing person. She never witnessed Jennifer getting angry and considered her a genuinely enjoyable individual. Both Shimona and Melissa described the couple as loving and portrayed their relationship as affectionate, with no negative energy involved. The devastating news of Jamie's murder reached Shimona and Melissa through a phone call from Melissa's cousin. The couple then rushed to the Faith's home and were confronted with the sight of Jamie's lifeless body lying on the street. Seeing him without any covering and realizing the severity of the situation was understandably a deeply distressing experience for them. A background to Jennifer and Jamie's relationship. In Arizona, Theresa and Ross Jensen, close friends of the Jamies for many years, also got the news of his murder and were stunned by the gruesome details of the case. Theresa and Jamie had a long history together, having been classmates throughout high school and college. In fact, Jamie played a pivotal role in introducing Theresa to her future husband Ross. The Jensens credited Jamie for changing their lives, as their connection and eventual marriage would never have happened without his influence. Jamie was known to declare himself as a confirmed bachelor, asserting that he would never get married or have children. But all of that changed when he met Jennifer in 2005. The chemistry between them was immediate and undeniable, and Jamie's staunch commitment phobia dissolved almost immediately. He quickly embraced a serious relationship with Jennifer, as they clearly had a strong connection. Despite his previous aversion to parenthood, Jamie readily accepted Jennifer's daughter from a previous marriage, Amber, and became an integral part of her life. He attended her dance recitals and provided unwavering support as a loving father figure. In 2012, Jamie and Jennifer tied the knot in Las Vegas, solidifying their bond. As Amber reached adulthood, Jamie formally adopted her, further cementing their family unit. He worked for American Airlines in Arizona, while Jennifer pursued a career in healthcare administration. Their mutual friendships and acquaintances warmly accepted Jennifer into their circle, acknowledging her compatibility with Jamie and their happiness as a couple. In 2017, Jamie's career advancement forced them to move to Dallas, where they seemed content and harmonious in their new surroundings. Ross Jensen, reflecting on their friendship, observed their evident happiness and expressed his sincere wish for their continued joy. The couple had found stability and fulfillment, cherishing their shared life together. But on the fateful October morning, their happiness came to an end. Coincidentally, the day Jamie died was a day after the two celebrated their 15th anniversary since their first date. Jennifer Faith was devastated. Following the shooting, Jennifer appeared on television appealing to the public for any information regarding her husband's killer. In an interview with Fox 4 News in October 2020, she expressed the depth of her grief, describing the experience as horrible and stating that she was constantly torn between heartbreak and devastation. During the emotional interview, Jennifer emphasized her need to find closure by getting her husband's killer caught and making sense of the tragic events. Although many neighbors didn't have a personal connection with the Faiths, the Oak Cliff community rallied together to offer support and comfort to Jennifer Faith and her daughter Amber. In a news report from December 2nd, 2020, the woman spoke about how she was not supposed to be a widow at 48, as she appealed to the public for sympathy. In the aftermath of the murder, Jenna Wilson, a neighbor of the Faiths, reached out to Jennifer directly to extend her support. Recognizing Jennifer's preference for vegan meals, Jenna took the initiative to organize a meal train, enlisting multiple families to provide nourishing vegan dishes for Jennifer and her daughter during their time of grief. The response from the community was overwhelming, with an estimated 50 or more families participating in the meal train, demonstrating their unity and willingness to offer sustenance and care in the family's time of need. The day after the murder, a close friend of Jennifer's launched a GoFundMe campaign to provide financial support for the grieving family. Suspiciously, though, it was reported that Jennifer, the newly widowed wife, withdrew approximately $58,000 from the fund. And it didn't stop there. On November 11th, she initiated a claim for life insurance benefits, seeking an approximate amount of $629,000 from MetLife. When it came to bidding farewell to Jamie, Jennifer Faith meticulously planned 2 funerals, one in Dallas and another in Phoenix. Every detail was carefully considered, as evident from the displays set up at the venues. Guests were offered keepsakes such as matchbooks, cards, and coasters, creating a unique and heartfelt atmosphere. While mourning the loss of her husband, Jennifer kept actively seeking information about the murder through media appearances and public appeals. But as the truth was slowly uncovered, it turned out that Jennifer Faith was hiding behind a facade. The first cracks in the story. As part of their standard procedure in homicide investigations, detectives delved into Jennifer's background. They also requested access to her cell phone records, which revealed a significant piece of information. 6 months before the shooting, in April 2020, Jennifer had reached out to an ex-boyfriend named Darren, as indicated in her text messages. Jim Holland, a trained Texas Ranger and CBS News consultant, explains that law enforcement meticulously examined both Jennifer and Darren's lives, conducting an extensive investigation into their backgrounds. Darren Lopez, a military veteran and Purple Heart recipient, had a history with Jennifer. They had dated during high school and reconnected in early 2020 when both of them were 49 years old. At the time, Darren was going through a divorce and living in an isolated part of Tennessee, raising his daughters. Authorities discovered that Darren owned a 20-acre property in Cumberland Furnace, Tennessee, adding another layer of interest to their investigation. But what was even more suspicious was that they uncovered a significant connection to the case, a black Nissan Titan pickup truck, identical to the one fleeing the scene of Jamie's murder. Texas authorities reached out to their counterparts in Tennessee, initiating joint efforts to gather more evidence. They then scrupulously examined his phone records, which revealed an extraordinary amount of communication between Jennifer and Darren. In some instances, they exchanged messages more than 500 times a day. However, what stood out was a peculiar gap in their correspondence. Starting on the afternoon of October 8th, the day before Jamie's murder, Jennifer and Darren abruptly ceased communication for almost 28 hours. During that time, Darren informed his daughters that he would be going on a hunting trip for a few days. Surveillance footage and debit card records confirm that Darren set off on a journey, stopping at a gas station near his home before embarking on a 10-hour drive to Dallas, precisely targeting the Faith's residence. As Darren traveled, he unknowingly left a trail of evidence for law enforcement to follow. Security footage from an Arkansas gas station captured him wearing a blue mask, matching the description given by Jennifer Faith of the killer's face covering. GPS data indicated that he arrived at Faith's home at 2:19 a.m. the following morning. Grainy images captured by a security camera at the vacant house adjacent to the Faith's residence showed Darren's presence. The calculated timing of his arrival and the patience displayed in staging the crime for several hours before the murder left investigators with numerous questions, contemplating the mindset and motives behind the crime. A case builds against Darren Lopez. After shooting Jamie Faith to death, Darren Lopez then fled the scene and drove 650 miles back to his home in Tennessee. Law enforcement officials were then faced with the daunting task of unraveling the motive behind the brutal crime. Jim Holland emphasized the need to understand why Darren committed such a heinous act. Was it solely driven by his own emotions, a result of his love for Jennifer Faith, or did someone else manipulate him in carrying out the murder? Several months later, in January 2021, Dallas detectives made significant breakthroughs in the investigation. A wealth of evidence, including thousands of text messages, painted a picture for an almost obsessive connection between Jennifer Faith and Darren Lopez. Remarkably, despite not having seen each other for decades, their virtual connection suggested an intense bond. The accumulation of evidence against Darren extended beyond the text messages. Detectives possessed cell phone data that placed him near the crime scene during the time of the murder, as well as GPS coordinates that traced his exact route from Tennessee to Dallas and back again. In the eyes of law enforcement, these pieces of evidence formed a compelling foundation for a murder charge. The breakthrough in the investigation proved successful in a dramatic moment when Lopez was taken in. On January 11, 2021, police pulled him over in Dixon, Tennessee, not far from his residence. Sergeant Joseph Calhoun, an officer from the Dixon County Sheriff's Office, observed Darren's nervous demeanor during the arrest. Although the suspect remained quiet, his unease was apparent. Upon searching Darren's vehicle, agents made a critical discovery: a face mask of the same color, described by Jennifer Faith as the one worn by the gunman. As the suspected killer was transported to the local jail by Calhoun, the investigative team swiftly moved to search his residence, and inside, they uncovered a .45 caliber handgun. The discovery of the handgun was significant for the investigators working on the case. Ballistics tests conducted later confirmed that the gun found at Darren's house matched the shell casings recovered from the murder scene. Authorities also made a chilling revelation. Traces of Jamie Faith's blood were discovered on the weapon. The question arose as to why Darren had not disposed of the gun, considering its incriminating nature. Defense attorney Christy Jack contemplated the possibility that it held sentimental value, perhaps serving as a twisted symbol of his love for Jennifer, or the lengths he was willing to go to possess her. Upon his arrest, Darren faced charges at both the federal and state levels, but he pleaded not guilty to both the federal gun crime and the state-level murder charge. Following his arrest, he was transferred to the Dallas County Jail, where he's still being held on a staggering $1 million bail. The focus turns to Jennifer Faith. Over the course of the investigation, authorities grew increasingly suspicious of Jennifer's involvement. Was she connected to the murder plot, or was she potentially covering up Darren's actions after the fact? On the day of Darren's arrest, Dallas detectives summoned Jennifer for further questioning. The timing of the interview wasn't a mere coincidence either, but a carefully orchestrated move by law enforcement, ensuring that Jennifer remained unaware of Darren's arrest, minimizing the risk of interference or collusion between the two parties. On January 10th, law enforcement invited Jennifer for an interview, causing her considerable distress. Seeking solace and reassurance, she reached out to Darren via text, expressing her nervousness. The killer, in an attempt to allay her fears, advised her to maintain her current narrative, assuring her that everything would be fine. In an attempt to cover her tracks, Jennifer discussed her plans to reset her phone and delete text messages to prevent incriminating evidence from being discovered. However, fate caught up with Darren, as he was arrested in Tennessee on the same day as Jennifer's police interview. On February 24, 2021, a significant turn of events unfolded when Jennifer Faith was taken into custody. However, the charge leveled against her wasn't homicide, it was obstruction of justice. The moment of her arrest was captured on an in-house camera as she underwent the booking process at the Dallas County Jail. Christy Jack clarified the nature of the obstruction of justice charge. In Jennifer's case, she was being charged for deleting or destroying text messages on her phone. What's more, authorities explored the possibility that Jennifer had urged Darren to remove the T sticker from his truck's window, further implicating her in obstructing the investigation. Jennifer, upon her arrest, entered a plea of not guilty. But the decision to arrest Jennifer yielded valuable results. Inside her residence, authorities discovered computers containing a trove of emails that propelled the investigation in an entirely unexpected direction. Jim Holland, reflecting on the bizarre findings, noted that the emails took on a highly unusual nature. But the most unsettling aspect was that these emails were sent from an account in Jamie Faith's name. Manipulation through fake email accounts. According to a federal indictment, Jennifer was accused of engaging in a deceptive scheme involving fake email accounts to manipulate and taunt her ex-lover Darren Lopez. In April 2020, Jennifer created a fictitious Gmail account using her husband's name. Assuming her husband's identity, she sent numerous emails to Lopez throughout the spring and summer, fabricating stories of extreme physical and sexual abuse that had never occurred. To make her false claims concrete, Jennifer attached doctored images of injuries to the emails, attempting to deceive Darren into believing the existence of domestic violence. In an email dated April 10th, while impersonating her husband, she reportedly warned Lopez to stay away from her family. In another email, she boasted about Darren's helplessness in the situation, attaching close-up photos of counterfeit bruises. On May 13th, Jennifer created a separate fake Gmail account using a friend's name. From this account, she sent multiple emails to Darren, falsely asserting that her husband Jamie was abusing her. The indictment alleges that Jennifer included images of injuries in these emails as well. In another email exchange on May 13th, while posing as her friend, Jennifer claimed that Jamie had slapped her and sent a photo of him supposedly choking her. She then reached out to Darren, seeking his involvement to help her escape the alleged abuse. In a subsequent email, Jennifer asked Darren for ideas on how to assist her. On May 20th, Darren Lopez responded to the fake Gmail account, expressing his desire to see Jennifer out of the abusive situation, even suggesting violence towards Jamie. Jennifer, still pretending to be her friend, replied in agreement with her ex-lover's suggestion and offered to provide him with an alibi. In court, Jennifer admitted that she went to great lengths to fabricate evidence, including downloading stock images depicting injuries from the internet and attaching them to some of the emails, in an attempt to convince Darren of the alleged abuse. She acknowledged in her guilty plea that she was aware of Darren's traumatic brain injury, a result of his military service in Iraq, which had left him disabled. Exploiting this knowledge, she manipulated Darren to carry out the murder. Jennifer and Darren exchanged a staggering 14,000 text messages in October 2020 alone. The content of these messages demonstrated their intense connection as they discussed their aspirations of being together for 5 years. Although the text messages ceased on the day of Jamie's murder, they resumed just a day later, painting a complex picture of their relationship. The authorities find evidence. The public had no idea, but in the days following the murder, Jennifer engaged in an elaborate performance to conceal her involvement. U.S. Attorney Chad Meacham stated that she poured out her sob story to reporters and law enforcement, only to return home and orchestrate a cover-up. Throughout their relationship, Jennifer provided financial support to Darren, both before and after the murder. She gifted him money and various items, using the proceeds from the GoFundMe campaign titled Support Jennifer Faith to pay off the 2 credit cards she had given to her accomplice. She maintained periodic communication with Darren, updating him on the progress of the claim. The text messages between them also discussed plans to use the money to apply for a residence in Jennifer's name in Tennessee. She also spent the money on plane tickets for Darren and his daughters, as well as the shipment of a large-screen television via FedEx to her partner in crime. While Darren remained in prison, Jennifer conveyed a message through an intermediary, assuring him of her unwavering loyalty. Despite their dire circumstances, Darren responded, promising to be her eternal protector. Looking at the emails and the payments, as well as the gifts sent to Darren Lopez, the prosecutors had enough evidence to charge Jennifer Faith a second time. 7 months after being charged with obstruction, in September 2021, she was charged with murder for hire, a federal offense. Jennifer finally comes clean. On February 7th, 2022, Jennifer, accompanied by attorney Toby Shook, showed up in a Dallas courtroom and pleaded guilty to 1 count of using interstate commerce in the commission for a murder-for-hire plot. By entering this guilty plea, Jennifer's legal team aimed to secure a more favorable outcome for her. Prosecutors in return agreed to remove the death penalty from the table and instead recommended a life sentence. Jim Holland noted that even Jennifer's guilty plea was consistent with her character. According to Holland, Jennifer couldn't bear the thought of facing the death penalty, as she was incapable of taking her own life. This assertion shed light on a profound truth about Jennifer. Her love for herself surpassed any other love she may have claimed to possess. But prosecutors attached an important condition to the plea agreement. Jennifer was required to admit that her late husband had never physically or sexually abused her, dispelling the claim she made in the past. She admitted that the images were taken from the internet, but that's not all. As part of her guilty plea, Jennifer finally confessed how she'd utilized the funds raised from the GoFundMe campaign. Supporters who contributed to the cause were left devastated by her confession. The admission of misusing the donated money undoubtedly shattered the trust and faith placed in Jennifer by those who rallied behind her during her time of grief. In the end, GoFundMe offered full refunds to everyone who donated to Jennifer's account. Sentence. Jennifer Faith was sentenced to life in federal prison in 2022 at the age of 50, as announced by the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Texas. Before handing down the sentence, United States District Judge Jane J. Boyle described Jennifer Faith as pure evil. Darren Lopez's trial, on the other hand, is still underway, and his sentencing hearing is scheduled for June 26, 2023. Do you think a life sentence is enough for Jennifer Faith's web of deceit and lies? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you next time on Bad Badger.